Hi, I'm Gautam Chintamani and I'm an author and film historian. This is a space where I explore facets of cinema and how cinema has impacted people over the century. A lot of people think that it is the society which decides how cinema operates, but I'm of the opinion that it is also the cinema of a place that decides how people react and how people function. I say this because after the Russian Revolution, Lenin set up an entire industry, an entire ministry to use cinema as a tool to propagate the message of the Bolsheviks. But that's a story for a different day. We look at cinema and its impact on society and how certain people have captured the zeitgeist, and not only captured the zeitgeist but also defined the culture of that era. And one of the personalities that I'm going to start talking about is the late Dilip Kumar. We just lost Dilip Saab a few days ago, one of the most iconic screen legends if there were ever in the world. Dilip Kumar has left such an indelible stamp on the craft of acting that you can clearly demarcate two different groups. One is before Dilip Kumar and one is after Dilip Kumar. But there is a lot more to Dilip Kumar than just acting, and this is exactly what Ashok Kumar, one of his mentors in the manner of speaking, had also advised him, that acting is just a small facet of a film star or a film actor's life, but it is everything else that helps in creating the aura of the star. Discovered by the great Devika Rani in 1944, Dilip Kumar had a contract with Bombay Talkies for almost 1300 rupees back in the 40s. That's a lot of money. To give you an idea of the difference between the scale that a Raj Kapoor, who was an up-and-coming filmmaker at that time, was earning as compared to Dilip Kumar. Raj Kapoor was employed as the second assistant or the third assistant for 170 rupees a month. Dilip Kumar has been a conscious part of India's film viewing audience. There is hardly anyone, I think this present generation may not be as aware of Dilip Kumar's work and would not know the legend that Dilip Saab became in his own lifetime. But there is no way that you have not come across a Dilip Kumar scene or a Dilip Kumar film if you were ever interested in cinema in India. Having said that, what is it about Dilip Kumar that created this aura, this legacy? I think post-independence, the three big stars, Dev Anand, Raj Kapoor and Dilip Kumar, formed a nice trio of sorts which tried to imbibe certain qualities of India's first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, into each and every character that they were playing. So in that aspect, Raj Kapoor was the lovable tramp who would be offered to do something wrong and he would give in, but he would eventually come around. Dev Anand represented the modern facet of Nehru, so to speak. He was a guy who took the opportunities that came along the way, made some money from doing wrong things, but then did his time, but he was not going back to being the lovable tramp in most cases like Raj Kapoor was. In the middle was Dilip Kumar. Dilip Kumar became the perfect embodiment of Nehru's socialist ideas, where it was the right mix of traditional and modern. In that aspect, it's hardly surprising that then Dilip Kumar became Pandit Nehru's favorite actor. Dilip Kumar was the creation of the times. In that aspect, he was born Yusuf Khan in 1922. And according to his autobiography, it is Devika Rani who came up with the name Dilip Kumar, because she said that for a romantic star, you should be able to connect with each and everyone. Now, was that trying to say that a Muslim name is not going to work? I don't know what Devika Rani was thinking at that time. But having said that, there was no confusion amongst the people who, the viewers who were watching Dilip Kumar, or even the trade that was working with Dilip Kumar, that Dilip Kumar was a screen name. And I think the greatest role that Dilip Kumar played was the role of Dilip Kumar, because he carried himself impeccably in public. He never missed a beat. He never took a crazy stand in public. He was always very, very conscious of the image that was being portrayed by Dilip Kumar. If he was ever playing a negative character, the character sought the forgiveness of the camera. So by that he was connecting to the viewer And even if you see films like Ganga Jamna, he very clearly says that, हमका माफी दे दो.
दादा की माफी दे दे भाई. दादा, अपनी दादा की माफी दे दे मुन्ना. दादा, मुन्ना भारी भूल किया मुन्ना. मुन्ना की भारी सजा भी पाया भैया.
Unlike Devanand or Raj Kapoor or some of his other contemporaries like Rajinder Kumar, Shami Kapoor, he did only 58, 59 films in that period. And what is very interesting is the connection that he seems to have with Pandit Nehru in that aspect. That between 1947, the independence of India, and Nehru's death in 1964, he had done almost 38, 39 films. So the chunk of the films that Dilip Kumar is known for or became famous for happened at the time when Nehru was around. And in that aspect, if you see, although he is known for these tragic roles, he's a tragedy king, but there was a phase where Dilip Kumar concentrated on being the swashbuckling hero. So if you see films like Amar or Aan, he's that typical swashbuckling young prince, cast in the same mold as an early Errol Flynn or that kind of a person. Then comes the whole tragic period where if you see Didar or if you see Yahudi, Admi, Devdas, all these films is where he portrays this tragedy king. And the genesis of this tragic hero is Mehboob's Andaz. Andaz is one of the greatest films ever made. It's this classic love triangle, and although everyone is perfectly cast in the film, Raj Kapoor, Nargis, but it is Dilip Kumar, to my mind, who walks away with all the glory. I think Dilip Kumar was very aware of the role he had to play as a public figure. He had an excellent command on Urdu, Marathi and Hindi, and there were a lot of instances where the Congress wanted him to do the campaigning during elections. And the closeness that Nehru and Dilip Kumar had is epitomized in the early 1960s during the release of Ganga Jamna. Ganga Jamna may be credited to Nitin Bose in as far as direction is concerned, but it's an open secret that it was Dilip Kumar who directed the film. Now this film came after Jis Desh Mein Ganga Behti Hai, but the censor had a huge problem with Ganga Jamna, and they were suggesting some 60 odd cuts in the film because they thought it was very vulgar. They thought it was it promoted crime in that sense, and Dilip Kumar had a big issue with that because he felt that the same censor board was okay with Raj Kapoor's Jis Desh Mein Ganga Behti Hai and had problems with his film. So he in fact met Nehru and he requested Nehru to help him out, and it was Nehru's personal intervention that the censors cleared the film without any cuts. And during that phase, Dilip Kumar writes in his autobiography that Nehru asked him to campaign for Rajni Patel in the elections in Bombay state at that time. So there is a sense of familiarity between Nehru and Dilip Kumar, and that is why when you see films like Naya Daur, or if you see Ganga Jamna, Leader, and in fact even Paigam, the socialist message of the script is very clearly presented by Dilip Kumar. Of course, as an audience, you get enamored by Dilip Kumar's charm, his diction, the entire frame. You forget the overtly socialist message that these films are giving. So that scene in Paigam where Dilip Kumar is arguing with Motilal, another fine actor of that generation.
बेइंसाफी? किस बात की बेइंसाफी? मैंने क्या जुर्म किया? मिल का मालिक होना जुर्म है, या मिल के मजदूरों को हर महीने पूरी तनख्वाह देता हूँ ये जुर्म है, या जिन लोगों को आधे वक्त खाना नहीं मिलता है उनको नौकरी देता हूँ ये भी जुर्म है?
नहीं, ये जुर्म नहीं है। नौकरी देना जुर्म नहीं है, मिल का मालिक होना भी जुर्म नहीं है। मैं तो सिर्फ इतना कहता हूँ सेठ जी कि जो धन मजदूरों के हिस्से का है उसे मजदूरों से छीन लेना जुर्म है।
कौन सा धन? क्या उन लोगों ने इस मिल में रुपया लगाया है?
उन्होंने रुपया लगाया नहीं सेठ जी, उन्होंने रुपया लगाया नहीं, रुपया पैदा किया। और आपने जो एक छप्पर खड़ा किया था उसे इन आलीशान मकानों में बदलने के लिए भी उन्हीं मजदूरों ने अपना खून और पसीना एक किया। आपकी ये सोना उगलने वाली मिलें भी उनकी मेहनत पर चलती हैं, और आप भी दुनिया में किसी और चीज से नहीं, मेहनत से ही कामयाब हुए हैं। लेकिन सेठ जी, रुपए ने शायद आपकी आंखों पर पर्दा डाल दिया, और जिस सीढ़ी पर चढ़ के आप जिंदगी में ऊपर उठे, आज आप उसी सीढ़ी को काट के फेंक देना चाहते हैं। रुपया क्या है सेठ जी? रुपया क्या है? मिट्टी की तरह एक बेजान और बेकार चीज है।
It's very clear in the sense of messaging that unlike the over-the-top socialist message that Raj Kapoor's films used to give, Dilip Kumar's films and his tempering of the socialist message, in that aspect, Dev Anand was very capitalist. So if you see films like Bazi or if you see films like Jal, they hover more on the crime and the film noir aspect than a very clear Nehruvian socialistic message.
जिस रास्ते पे तुम चल रहे हो जानते हो वो रास्ता कहाँ जाके खत्म होता है?
यहीं इसी जगह?
वाह वाह, क्या कहने इस हाजिर जवाबी के?
आपको और कुछ पूछना है?
हाँ, बहुत कुछ पूछना है। तुमने अपने आप को समझ क्या रखा है? यहां अच्छो अच्छो के छक्के छूट जाते हैं। तमीज से बात करो।
आप मुझे गिरफ्तार कर लेंगे, जेल में डाल देंगे, मैं उसके लिए तैयार होकर आया हूं। थैंक यू।
देखो, मुझे तुमसे कोई जाती दुश्मनी नहीं, ना ही मैंने कभी अपनी पोजीशन का नाजायज फायदा उठाया और ना ही मैं तुम्हारे से बदला लेना चाहता हूं।
दूसरे ले ही चुके हैं, आप भी ले लीजिए।
One of the big problems of stars that define an era is that what happens to them when the era gets over. Do they end up losing their grip on the narrative, or do they become redundant in that period? I think it's slightly to do with the fact that a sense of out of place or being out of sorts seeps into the actor, and that ends up showing up on the screen. So if you see, once you come into the 60s and essentially after the Chinese Indochina war, that really shook India out of whatever state of mind India was in at that time. Suddenly in the 60s, especially towards the mid 60s and the end of 60s, Dilip Kumar did not seem like the right fit. More or less the same kind of films were being made, but the next generation of actors who emulated Dilip Kumar, say Rajendra Kumar or Manoj Kumar, to some extent even Dharamji in the films of Bimal Roy, were doing a much better job. I think somewhere the fact that the identity that Dilip Kumar based his screen personality and his public persona on, largely driven by Nehru's idea, the aura of Pandit Nehru, because it was no longer there and the generation then was questioning what India was doing because you didn't seem to be living your destiny, that made Dilip Kumar suddenly look out of sorts. It's not surprising because in that phase, if you see the kind of films that he was doing, I think it was upon his psychoanalyst's advice that Dilip Kumar started doing lighter roles and exploring comedy as such. So if you see Ram Aur Shyam and the success that Ram Aur Shyam enjoyed, it's not surprising that Dilip Kumar was toying with the idea of giving up films post Ram Aur Shyam. Ram Aur Shyam is 1967, and this was around the same time where Raj Kapoor as a leading man was more or less done with. Sangam had released, and between Sangam and say Mera Naam Joker, there's hardly anything of significance that Raj Kapoor did as far as Raj Kapoor the star, the actor went. In that phase, Dilip Kumar was not able to find his spot, and I think that is the problem where in the 70s also, the everyman that Dilip Kumar was playing in the 50s and 60s, Ganga Jamna and Leader or say Naya Daur, writers like Salim Khan and Javed Akhtar were taking the same template and updating it for the angry young man phase that they were exploring. But Dilip Kumar didn't seem like a good fit in that era. So it's surprising that in the early 1970s you see Dev Anand, who looks as if he belongs to that era, but suddenly Dilip Kumar in films like Gopi, Bairag, Dastan seems completely at sea. And it's not surprising that Dilip Saab also refused Zanjeer at that time, because I think somewhere the anger against the system, which formed the basis for a lot of angry young man films or that characters exploration. So if you see Aadmi Aur Insaan, Namak Haram, which are not Salim Javed scripts, but then Zanjeer and Diwar, Salim Khan and Javed Akhtar both credit the environment for creating the angry young man. To some extent, also the impact of Ganga Jamuna and Mother India on their conscious mind. So how is it that the guy who inspires these templates does not have any work or any worthwhile work in that phase? I often wonder what would have happened if people like Dharmendra or Dilip Kumar or Devanand, who were originally being pitched Zanjeer, what would have happened if they had accepted it? I think Dilip Kumar would have looked slightly more of a miscast than even Devanand, because if you put a little bit of some kind of softness in the narrative, Devanand might have still worked. Of course, not as good as, say, Dharmendra or as perfectly cast as Amitabh Bachchan in that case, but it's an interesting thought. And suddenly after mid-70s, where Amitabh Bachchan and Angry Young Man become too big, the entire generation of stars before them, and even actors like Joy Mukherjee or Biswajit, who looked like, you know, they were doing something meaningful between 1969, 70 and 73, suddenly they were cast aside. In that, I think it's got more to do with the fact that Dilip Kumar was not being able to shift gears in the 70s, but in the 80s, he managed to do that in a much better way. And I think it is also to the credit of writers and filmmakers of the 80s, especially Javed Akhtar, who wrote Mashal for Dilip Kumar, Salim Javed, who wrote Shakti for Dilip Kumar, and Subhash Ghai, who made Vidhata and Karma in that period, or Kader Khan, who wrote the dialogues of Karma. All these guys did a much better job than what was being offered to Dilip Kumar in the 70s. I think somewhere films like Mashal, which is one of the finest films of Dilip Kumar, because of how he manages to place himself in the narrative. His acting is good in those films, Mashal and Karma, but of course it's not a patch on what Dilip Saab did in Ganga Jamuna or before that. But I often wonder that the larger than life Dilip Kumar, which the filmmakers of the 70s were not being able to deal with, that is why they could not come up with anything interesting for him. Once they managed to do that in the 80s with, say, Dunia or Mashal, Karma, and even the films like Izzatdar or Kanun Apna Apna, which seemed really stupid from one aspect, but they still have their moments, all went for a toss because suddenly you got enamored by the larger than life aura of Dilip Kumar once again in Saudagar. And I think it's largely because of Saudagar that Dilip Kumar did not do more films, because between Saudagar and Killa, I don't know what would have come along, because that is a phase where your three Khans and Akshay Kumar and Ajay Devgan were coming into their own, and Amitabh Bachchan was not finding work which suited his age and persona. So obviously it would have become a little difficult for Dilip Kumar. There have been a lot of debates and discussions following Dilip Saab's death, and one of the arguments which was made by Naseeruddin Shah was was a bit strange, because Mr. Shah believes that a person like Dilip Kumar, who was so aware of the conscious role that he was playing in society, did not do enough to inspire more actors. I think that's a bit of an overstretch, because he did not start a school per se and he was not teaching anybody, but he left a legacy which was big enough for actors to get inspired. And even Naseeruddin Shah, to a great extent, even if he does not agree, cannot help but be inspired by Dilip Kumar in a silent way. Also, the other thing that Naseeruddin Shah was complaining about, and Mr. Shah complains a lot, and he has every right to complain because he is one of our greatest actors, and if he has a comment or two to make on acting or the craft of acting, it holds a lot of water, though you may not agree with it. But he believes that Dilip Kumar started this whole star-centric scripts that basically ruined the actor in a star for generations to come. That is also a bit of an overstretch, because larger than life stars were always there before Dilip Kumar and around Dilip Kumar also. So if you look at a KL Sehgal, if you look at a Devika Rani, if you look at even guys like V Shantaram, really larger than life personas, not just in acting. If you look at Shami Kapoor, you could not separate the star from the actor, and I don't think Shami Kapoor was a great actor in any case, but he was a larger than life star. So to say that Dilip Kumar started this thing, I think it's a bit of an overstretch. But then, Naseeruddin Shah likes to complain, and he complains about everything, including himself, and more power to him. But that's something which is a bit of an overstretch.
कौन कम वक्त है जो बर्दाश्त करने के लिए पीता है।
मगर जाने से पहले ये गलतफहमी दूर कर देना चाहता था। पुजारी जो फूल एक बार अपने देवता पर चढ़ा देता है, वो फूल वो फिर कभी किसी और पर नहीं चढ़ा सकता।
पहले सोने की लंका चलेगी, उसके बाद रावण मारा जाएगा।
क्या समझते हैं ये दुष्ट लोग कि ये जुल्म करते जाएंगे और जनता सब चुपचाप सहती जाएगी? No.
For those who have seen a Dilip Kumar film ever know what Dilip Kumar means to the media. One thing remains a fact. There has been nobody like Dilip Kumar when it comes to leaving an impression on generations and generations of actors. Even though the younger generation today might think of a Saudagar when they think of Dilip Kumar and not say a Ganga Jamna, but that still shows you the impact that Dilip Saab has had. I hope you enjoyed watching the first episode of my channel. I hope to see you around soon. Thanks for watching.